Evan's attraction to Louise, a woman with a dark past, leads him on a journey of self-discovery, but at what cost? The ending is unexpected. Evan Russell is taking care of his terminally ill mother, who tells him a joke and then passes away. After the funeral, Evan has a drink with one of his buddies, Tommy. A stranger tries to pick a fight with Evan, who loses it and beats him up. As a result, Evan loses his job. Back at Evan's house, Tommy suggests a few jobs to Evan until the stranger from the bar stops by and threatens Evan. Soon afterwards, Tommy leaves and Evan asks from Jackie, a friend of his, to come over and spend the night with him. While attempting to engage sexually with her, Jackie asks Evan what he feels for her and Evan avoids answering. Soon, Evan falls asleep and Jackie lies down with him. In the morning, a police officer knocks on the door and Evan realizes that the incident with the stranger the previous night will definitely cause him trouble. Seeing this as an opportunity to take a break and also looking for a way out of this mess, Evan decides to travel to Italy. While there, he meets Tom and Sam, with whom he shares a few drinks, and the next day drives with them down to the coast. Arriving at a hotel, Evan is entranced by a charming woman in a red dress. He meets her again in a cocktail bar and hits on her, but the flirting doesn't go as planned, with the woman being rather peculiar with her intentions. The next day, Tom and Sam leave for Amsterdam, and Evan searches for a job. He arrives at a farm and is hired as Angelo's assistant. Later on, Evan comes across the attractive woman from the previous day and asks her out. He learns her name is Louise and that she is studying evolutionary genetics. Eventually, the two of them go out for a drink and chat about their journeys and past relationships. At some point, Louise asks Evan to write her a love letter. The couple continue their flirting in another place, and afterwards, Louise shows a weird interest in a ghost-haunted sea cavern. Evan kisses Louise, and the two of them end up having unprotected intercourse as Louise tosses Evan's protection away. After their intimacy, Louise appears to undergo a hideous transformation. She sneaks out of Evan's room and walks into the street where she attacks a stray cat. In the morning, Evan goes to the farm, and Louise is seen putting in a contact lens in order to hide her heterochromia. She also gets burned from a sunbeam through the bathroom window. Evan runs into Louise and takes a stroll with her in town. Hanging out later at her house, Evan learns that Louise is a multilinguist. Suddenly, a strange feeling forces Louise to grab a syringe and go to the bathroom. Inside it, it seems that Louise is transforming into something grotesque, but manages to stall the mutation with the syringe. In the morning, Evan goes to work at the farm, but not before noticing the syringe on the floor. Dealing with worms that can be both beneficial and harmful to trees, Evan discusses with Angelo about women. Later on, he sees an enormous worm coming out of the mouth of a dead ram. That night, Evan brings up the syringe and Louise admits that she has a rare disease and has to take medicine. Evan asks a waiter to take a photo of him and Louise, but Louise's face appears distorted. Louise keeps asking Evan about his family, and Evan tries to take her photograph. Louise leaves, and Evan goes after her. They stop at the beach, and Evan opens up to her, and tells her about the death of his parents. Louise reveals that her eyes are different colors. The next day, Evan sees a tree with two different fruits, and Angelo tells him that the old tree is using the new. He also shows him a volcano in the distance, and says that volcanoes give out good fertilizer. Louise is taking a saliva sample from a man who notices an awful smell. Louise checks her body and sees a hideous growth on her arm. She rushes to a cave where she takes off her clothes and stabs one of her bunnies. Using its blood, she paints strange symbols on the walls and soon afterwards pounces at the other bunny and eats it. Later that night, Evan visits Louise and sees that she is not feeling well. He prepares her something to eat and notices that the bunnies aren't in their cage. The next day, Evan finishes sooner from work and goes for a walk alone in the town. He buys a book for Louise, who surprises him and takes him on a boat trip. They row inside a sea cave and hang out for a while before returning. They go to have dinner, but Louise is feeling sick, feeling a repulsive substance in her body, and abruptly leaves. On her way to her home, however, she feels so weak from the transformation, she stops. An American tourist sees her and attempts to force himself on her, when suddenly he notices something strange about her. Louise has turned now into an appalling lizard creature and soon enough attacks the man while an elderly woman with shiny eyes is silently watching from a distance. The next day, the American is found dead and mutilated on a rock at the beach. Evan and Angelo go to relax at a nice spot and enjoy the view. Evan goes to Louise's house and she tells him that they can't see each other anymore. Evan can't accept this and asks her why. Louise is obstinate on her decision and shows him out. Evan leaves and, feeling enraged, punches a wall. In the morning, Evan says to Angelo how much he appreciates what he's doing for him until 2 immigration officers come and Evan runs away. Evan has a drink and doesn't know what to do. He decides to visit Louise again and, seeing that her house is a mess, he breaks in, only to find with horror that she is half transformed into a squid-like creature. Louise tries to reach the syringe and Evan deducts that she needs it. He goes and stabs the syringe in her neck, and quickly the human Louise comes back. Evan asks for explanations, but Louise is reluctant to reply, so he storms out. Louise follows him and tells him the truth about her. As it turns out, Louise is 2,000 years old, a mutant creature appearing in almost every painting with women having heterochromia. In order to prolong her life, Louise gets pregnant every 20 years before the spring equinox and uses the embryonic cells to remake her body while changing into different beasts from the Greek and Roman mythology. Louise also reveals that she deliberately got pregnant from Evan and that if she really falls in love, then her body will release oxytocin, a hormone that can block the embryonic cells and allow Louise to live with her own adult cells at the expense of her perpetual life. Evan asks Louise if she's in love with him, but she says that she's not. Evan tries to wrap his brain around these outrageous facts, and Louise mentions that she is not feeling inclined to sacrifice her immortality for a man she barely knows. Evan then asks for a minute to relax. He phones his friend Tommy and tells him about Louise. Hanging up, he sees Angelo crying for his lost wife and makes up his mind to pursue this seemingly condemned love affair. He goes to Louise and tells her that he wants to be with her. Louise says that since she's immortal, it wouldn't be wise for them to carry on this relationship. Evan tells her that they can be together with the time they have and proposes to spend the next 24 hours with her no matter what happens. Going together to Napoli, Evan and Louise become closer. Despite Louise's various transformative outbursts, Evan retains his calmness. Louise takes Evans to a catacomb and mentions about the oxytocin again. Using her last syringe, Louise takes Evan to Pompeii, her hometown. Once there, she shows him how the lava and heat from the volcano at Mount Vesuvius freakishly preserved people and animals. In a similar manner, Louise points out her family to Evan and informs him that at sunrise she is about to transform into something bigger and far scarier than before. She advises him to run when this happens. Right before sunrise, Louise lays her head on Evan's lap. Evan begins talking about love and the greatness of being mortal and cherishing every moment in life. Suddenly, the volcano behind him erupts and Evan hears a menacing growling. He lowers his head and witnesses that Louise hasn't transformed, having used her adult cells instead of the embryonic ones, ultimately losing her immortality. This means that Louise is in love with Evan and that she is going to be a normal human from now on.